We have this morning, on this Thursday morning, Mr. Larry Whitford. We want to thank you for writing an article for the Stewart and Houston County about your wife, Robbie, as our survivor star. Your story was very informative about the carriage bridge. Would you like to tell us about the carriage bridge for those who missed reading the paper?
Sure, Wilton. Carrying bridge is a service that we learned about very quickly after Robbie received her diagnosis of cancer. It is a free service that is available whereby a person can go onto the internet to carryingbridge.org website and establish a communication system, if you will, or a web page regarding the individual who has the medical problem. And this allows for the family of or care providers of the individual to post from day to day or time to time status reports on that individual, and then all of your friends and relatives, as they become aware of it, can go to that website and read what the status is. For example, if you just had a test that day or something of that nature, you can post it. And then also it allows those individuals, if that are reading your website, family, friends, etc., if they're so interested, they can leave a message on the website for the patient and their care provider. It's an excellent communication tool as compared to having to make numerous phone calls, etc., etc. And we highly recommend the Carrying Bridge. It has been a vital link, probably the most vital link that we have as far as communicating our message to our family and friends, and in turn their message back to us.
Okay. And that's Carrying Bridge, and I was called a carriage bridge. It was Carrying Bridge. You have been a pillar of support for Robbie since August of 2009, and she has done quite well. What has been your support?
Well, I appreciate that compliment. I've got several things that I would attribute my support to, but Robbie herself has been a major source of support by the way that she has accepted this disease, the courage that she has offered, the strength, there's never been any question in her mind, and consequently not in my mind, as to, that we want to make the most out of the journey. Also, our faith in God and in God's plan. We both believe, well, our faith was created well before this circumstance was presented to us, but we believe that God has a plan for everyone. And it's a matter of looking, trying to find the vision to see that plan, accepting the courage to, or gathering the courage to accept the plan, and then looking for the strength to carry the plan out. Also, family and friends, and here I would refer back to Carrying Bridge as well as other sources, but the support that we've received in numerous forms, calls, cards, prayers, written messages, etc., through Carrying Bridge. That has been a tremendous strength to us.
You speak of having a GPS system guiding your decisions during your journey with cancer. Tell us about this, please.
Well, back in a couple of months ago, we received a couple of really bad pieces of news from our doctor. One, that Robbie's cancer had spread to the brain, and number two, that the current chemo plan that we were on had proven to be ineffective. And so I immediately conveyed this information while we were still at the doctor's office. I conveyed this information to my daughter Laura, who in turn posted it in her own words on the website. That would be the Carrying Bridge website. And she concluded by saying something to the effect that while this may sound like bad news, we view or look for the good in the news. And that was simply that, number one, the doctor was optimistic that radiation could be, not would be, but could be, very effective on the brain tumor. And that if it was, then it would help to greatly reduce some of the symptoms and concerns and problems that the brain tumor was causing to Robbie. So rather than dwell on the negative, we were focused on the positive. But for the next 24, 36 hours, as sometimes even as I would wake up in the middle of the night, I got to thinking that a lot of people might not understand us taking such a position, even to the point that they might suggest we're in denial about the whole situation that we're in. And so I woke up on a Saturday morning, and this story was on my mind about traveling with a GPS, or a global positioning system, and how, in effect, that related to our travel. And we consider this entire cancer process a journey. So I got to thinking about the typical GPS that I have in the car, and you program your first thing you do is program in your destination. Well, we already know the destination. We're not in denial. The doctor is right up from the very beginning that this is a curable form of cancer that will eventually take Robbie's life. But quality of life than we are the quantity of life. So I thought further, when you're traveling with your GPS after having put in your destination, if you make a wrong turn, if you've got a GPS, you know what I'm talking about, but it's got that little pesky voice that comes on and tells you, you've made a wrong turn, making a U-turn, recalculating, blah, blah, blah. Well, God will actually send you a more subtle message if you're deviating from His intended course. But it's not going to be quite as obvious as that little voice, so you've got to be in tune and aware and listening for that. And so the more I thought about it, I said, well, we're traveling with a GPS, but it is God's positioning system rather than a global positioning system. That's the GPS story.
I noticed you and Robbie have traveled, gone to ball games, and seem to have kept up with normal activities instead of stopping life while Robbie went through treatments. Can you reflect on that for us and how well Robbie has done? And you've already covered part of it, but if you have anything else to say.
Well, that was an option, of course. You could, the day that you received your diagnosis, you could hang up your cleats, so to speak, and just wait for the end of the journey. But Robbie said, before the words had ever even gotten cold that the doctor told us, she said, I want to fight this. And in fact, the doctor said, it's your choice. You could do nothing, and consequently you would have X amount of months remaining, or you can seek treatment and with reasonable expectations expect this kind of return on it. So obviously from that day until now, our number one priority, our number one thing in life is centered around her treatment plan. But as we learn about the treatment plan, and we've been on 4 or 5 different ones now, we kind of look for windows of opportunity within the plan, between treatments, etc., and try to continue doing the things that we enjoyed very much before our diagnosis. And certainly going not just to football, but Titans football has been one of our greatest pleasures. Traveling has been another. In fact, when we got the diagnosis, we had a list of things that we had wanted to do for a number of years, a bucket list, if you will. And we had, just before the diagnosis, we had completed a cruise through the Panama Canal. We had one additional cruise on our list, and that was to go to Alaska. So we got the diagnosis in August, and we went ahead immediately afterwards and booked our Alaskan cruise for April of the next spring. And we had to modify the treatment plan slightly, but we made that trip. We were not ready to scratch it off the list yet. And since then, we've made several other little travel trips. Yeah, we have to plan them around the treatment, as I said earlier, but it's indefinite, and if you anticipated that it is, you might lose out the best part of your life.
When I see Robbie, in fact, we had her in our home a few days ago, and we noticed her winning spirit, her big open smile. Any comments on that?
Well, Robbie has always been a positive person, and always has been a fighter when the cause was one that she believed in. If anything, quite frankly, the cancer, which is a terrible thing, I don't want to minimize it at all, but if anything, the cancer has opened our eyes to see that every day has something to offer. And you know, it's kind of like the glass being half full or half empty. It depends on how you look at it. But as I told somebody one day, previously maybe in taking a trip here, you can't wait till you get to your destination. Now, if we take a trip, it's exciting just to see what's around the next curve. So it's all in the attitude, but I think the attitude would probably be impossible if you didn't have faith and if you didn't believe. And probably those are two key words for us, is believe and have faith.
And the last question, what advice do you have to give to others about what you're going through, and you've attitude and you've brought it out so plain? Do you have anything else that you would like to add?
Well, I think it's important, I think it's very important to be completely honest with yourself. You can't, certainly I know God is capable of doing anything, and miracles are done, but we need to be completely honest and look at what the statistics say are most likely going to happen in the situation that you're in. And as I said earlier, in our case, we were told right up front that this cancer responded well to treatment, but it was not curable and it could not be operated on. So we've never denied that. At the same time, that doesn't mean that you can't be optimistic and positive, that is, seeking the best travel route to get there. So that would be my word of advice is, remain as positive as you can be, and at the same time not losing sight of what is actually real. And probably, Wilton, another thing, at least we do this, we openly talk about the situation. We openly talk about the end of the journey, and so I think it's important to openly talk about it to your whomever you're providing care for, as well as to your immediate family at least. I mean, we have 4 kids, and we've all openly talked to each and every one of them, making sure that they completely understand, the situation and where we are. So that would be my advice.
That was very good, Larry, and we appreciate you being here this morning. And I've noticed one thing, and you brought it out very well. We know that God can, yes, you're healed, just a snap of your finger. But nobody has blamed God yet. And we realize that He has His way of doing things.
Absolutely.
And we're not to question Him.
Absolutely. I don't know why this was placed upon us, but if our journey, if this message today can help somebody else, and you know, that's part of God's plan. That's part of our reason for being